Today's episode of Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze is sponsored by Movie Group, founder of the Dream Network channel. Learn more at dreamnetworkchannel.com.
I wanna visit all the places nobody goes. I wanna teach all the things that nobody knows. I wanna grow wings, leave the coop, learn to fly. Bungee jump from the tallest building in Dubai. I wanna fly around town in my UFO. I wanna eat real food, not the GMOs. I wanna make moves, call the shots like the boss. I wanna love like I never lost.
Welcome back to Desertwood Days, and I am Kathy Blaze. You know, we all love a great cup of coffee in the morning, don't we? Well, today we have the founder of Khepera Coffee, Mr. Terry Clark. Hello there.
Hello, how you doing?
Good. Great to see you again.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Look, I'm just going to take me a hug.
Oh, that's why I like to give away too, you know. That's the thing that gives all giving, so I give them all free.
Yes. Khepera Coffee. You know what? I love the name, and I love the coffee. I did get to taste it.
Yes, you did.
I love the coffee.
I appreciate that.
So, what got you started in that industry?
Well, you know what? Not to be too simplistic, it really was just, I was really just trying to figure out what was my next thing to do. I relocated back out here. I had a gym in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I shut it down in December of 2019. I came back out here, had a lot of issues that summer where I was always out here. And so that fall, December, I shut the gym down and waited a couple months trying to see what I was going to do. And then I took on this project with schools. I do principal, and I do some other program development, stuff like that. So I took it on, and I was trying to figure out what my next thing was going to be. And just by chance, I'm not really, a little secret, I wasn't a coffee drinker. I drink teas. I used to practice a lot of holistic approach to fitness and healthcare. And so a friend of mine that I was just kind of noticing, he and his girlfriend, they went to literally Starbucks and Dutch Brothers.
You know what? You know what? My cup is empty.
You know what? And biblical says your cup runneth over, then everybody will something like that. I don't know. I'm not a theologian, but so I noticed that I swear that weekend they must have had about, I don't know, 10 cups of coffee apiece, and I was just kind of like, yo, y'all addicted? I thought they were like cracks. I didn't know what it was. So I just started inquiring about it. Then just saying how this was habitual for them. And so I just looked into the model, and I looked at first Starbucks. I looked at their model. I just went and just did a physical observation. And I just saw there's 3 Starbucks around this square 5-mile square radius, and they're packed. There's drive-throughs, and I just started looking at the price, and I started the numbers. And I practice a lot with the 5% Nation, and so a lot of their principles, and a lot of them are based in, African origins and our culture. And I started doing research. Coffee's origins started in Africa. So I was like, wow, this is a natural marriage. With me, what I believe, and also with just people's love and affinity, and it's just a business model that's scalable. It just, through any pandemic and things, it's always something everybody's got. They may not have money to go, out to dinner, but they pay for their coffee.
They'll get their coffee
all the time.
That is true. That is true. I love what you said, that you did all the research about it. Because a lot of times people start things and they don't do the research, and then they wonder why it failed or why it didn't turn out the way they wanted to be a success, because they don't put the research into it.
Well, I've fortunate or unfortunate, I've had experience in successful and very failed businesses over the course of the past about 15 years. I was part owner of a private alternative school here in Arizona. I also owned, like I said, a gym. I've owned communal properties, and I've also owned other properties here in Arizona and also in Virginia and North Carolina. Okay. And so I've had opportunities to kind of, stick my
So
feet
you're
in
an
things and
entrepreneur
learn.
to put your fingers in a lot of things.
Yeah, and you know, entrepreneur who's made some mistakes, but I've been smart enough to not to continue to make the same ones over and over again. But so just doing this, I just kind of wanted to see what was the best transition into this market, and that wouldn't wouldn't force me to spend too much of my own assets or money or anything like that. So that's what I was trying to do, figure out what would be the best way.
You know, and this is an entertainment show. People are wondering, why is the coffee guy on the entertainment show? Well, the reason why I wanted you here, because, you know, there's not one film set or one theater set or anything that we do that there's not a pot of coffee sitting there. Okay.
Absolutely, and I'm very entertaining. So, I mean, this is the perfect marriage for me.
But coffee, you're right. I mean, you did your research and you saw how people will go and get their coffee. I mean, we had COVID, we had different things going on, but people will go get their coffee.
Well, you know, and it's crazy is we're in when I was in the gym and in the fitness industry, where people would kind of shun their own health. Certain things that they're not going to shun. One is not coffee.
Not their coffee.
And you know, there's a given. Now, people will probably maybe, you know, tailor it down to a little lesser formalized or high end coffee, but they're always gonna get the coffee.
That's true.
And what was important to me in doing this business was making it a reflection of who I am. You know, I try to live not perfect. Not close to it, but
not perfect.
Yeah, no, perfect. But I'm on a path to trying to just develop more righteous mindset and development and self-development. And so I wanted to do something that was going to be a reflection of who I am culturally, spiritually, and also one in which that I wasn't going to also harm, because I also believe in health. I don't want to do, now I can't control people putting, you know, pounds of sugar and creamer and stuff in their stuff, but what I want to do is give a very appeasing, tasting coffee that was also rich for their bodies and their minds.
So where'd you get the name from?
Khepera Coffee. Khepera comes from the name. It's the Kemetic name, which was formerly the Egyptian word of Khepera, which is the dung beetle, and which means he who originates himself. And what that means, in a sense, is that people in ancient Kemet, they were oftentimes told or been falsely recreated as these people who worship many gods. And know what they did. What they did is they were very observant of things in the universe and things in nature. So when they saw things, they would give it names. They would classify it, just as the Greeks did when they started saying, "Oh, the god of thunder, storm, and all this stuff." They just did the thing. So what they did was essentially see a dung beetle rolling its eggs in dung, which is, you know, and they saw how life came from a dead space. And so Khepera to me represents revitalizing your mind, getting back to your consciousness, and that's the repurposement of who I am and what I've been doing throughout my whole life. I've always had to repurpose myself and and that's what it's what constantly drives me and constantly keeps me on my square to self-improvement and trying to develop a more righteous sense of self.
Okay, that is awesome. That is awesome. So I know that you're doing some work with your brand right now, but we'll talk more, get more.
Yes, let's do that, please.
I don't want to I don't want to start there because we're going to be going to commercial break pretty soon. But I know you're going to be changing up your brand a little bit.
Absolutely.
I want to ask, okay, with say some of the companies like Starbucks, Circle K's, and will have the coffees and how do you keep up with it, be competition to someone like that?
Well, I've come to find real easy that they're not my competition.
Okay.
If I went to the business assuming that I was going to, you know, be on the scale my business the same way they scale theirs, I'm going to fail. So what I had to learn is that, you know, you always try to find a niche market. And when we talk about the new structure, we'll talk about how I've kind of fine-eyed that niche market a little more. But I realized early on that I'm
not your competition.
I'm not going to be, and I can't. And if I compete with, it's like competing with a ghost. I'm not going to compete with ghosts. So what I've learned is that's why I've been very pragmatic about really formalizing this ideology around people, community, because that's the heart of where I'm at.
Right.
And so, but you notice anything, you know, if you go to any except for like a Starbucks and maybe some other places, most
Well, Starbucks wasn't about the coffee. The reason
I don't know about that. So you can edify me on some things as well.
There was about a meeting place for people to meet up with, and then the people just started getting obsessed with the coffee, I guess, because I ain't gonna talk about Starbucks, but it wasn't originally created and thoughts of the coffee.
They must have been studying African culture, because that's really the onset of what it represented. It was representing community and organizing and becoming a part of something greater. So that's what they did. And so, like in any of these mom and pop store coffee shops you see, and you'll see that there's not, if they're organic, they're not going to have a lot of TVs and a lot of busyness.
Right.
It is simply a place where people commune and they talk and they gather.
Right.
And they correspond. And the communication is organic.
Right.
Where we live in a society, everything is about being on the computer, or it takes away from social interactions.
Right,
so that's why we've lost a sense of self, because we're all into ourselves.
We're all into
into
this thing, right?
Into this, and we're less mobilized because we're immobilized, because we're stuck in this in what we have in our hands. And so that's simply what I wanted to kind of make it a point about the coffee. The coffee is a product. It's a great product. And I'll talk a little bit more about it. But I wanted to make sure that it's an extension of love.
Oh, okay.
That people get a part of tasting coffee, they're tasting a product of who we are and the culture. So that's kind of simply what it is.
Awesome. It's about community. It's about family and being together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, so when my approach on business is simply about love, an extension of love. And if you find a brand, or you develop a brand, or you develop a niche that really focuses on the betterment, improvement of people, it's not, because to me, it's not about money. I'm not a dollar chaser. I don't believe in going into business trying to make or take to get the best of people. What I try to do is elevate the best of people. And so what I use coffee as an opportunity to do that. So like I've had comments before when I first was branding the idea of the coffee, I want to use Khepera Coffee, because people may call it Khepera Coffee, and I get that gets called a lot. So I'm not offended. But however, one of the things that being a person who of traditional African descent and being of a lost culture is that all of our culture is lost in translation. So I wanted to I didn't want it to be easy. I wanted it to be something that we have to find ourselves.
Right.
A righteous man is the one who finds himself and constantly tries to build on himself. So if we make it too easy upon that building, we've kind of regulated our own capability of learning and communicating effectively. And it's a part of who we are. Right. We need to speak our native tongue to be able to speak to ourselves.
Right.
And so when I created the Khepera Coffee and its ideas was based upon us being able to get in touch back with us. And this is not just about black. This is about, because everything comes from the continent of Africa, whether we choose to want to acknowledge that or not. But and it's about universal family. We're all connected. And coffee is a great connector.
Right.
It connects everybody. Everybody's sitting there.
Well, what you think back when I was a kid, my grandmother would sit there watching her soap operas. She'd have her little coffee cup and a little saucer. I always wondered why she pouring the coffee on the saucer. That dish didn't make no sense to me, and still don't make sense to me. But they enjoyed their coffee, and her little neighbor friends would come over and they'd have coffee together. That was their bonding time.
Yo, I'm gonna tell you. So you took me back a minute, because my grandmother was a General Hospital. All my children.
Yep.
She had, and this is VHS for all those millennials who don't know about that. She had me sit there and record. I was in college, so I was able to go and do these things, but record her stories for her, and I watched them, so I knew about. And sidetrack. And the thing about stories is, you could be on Luke and Lori in the jungle being arrested, and about 3 months later, they still in the same jungle. So I'm like, hey, this is
It didn't take long to catch up.
But I didn't grow up knowing a sense of who I truly was. I grew up with an indoctrinated perspective. And so it's important to me that we share that. And like I said, when we do it in a humane sense, in a humane environment, when all things are equal, we have an opportunity to really learn from each other and grow from each
Right.
other. And coffee is that connector. Because
Yeah.
everybody drinks it.
That is
Everybody,
true.
whether how you drink it or if you drink it in a mocha pot, if you drink it in a Keurig machine, whatever. We have that common bond that we can kind of grow and learn from each other. That's the great thing about coffee to me.
And there's one other thing that's different with you. You don't have a brick and mortar. You deliver and you meet your people, your clientele, right?
Absolutely. We roast our own coffee here locally, and we actually find a way to not just ship it locally, but I've sent it out to my people in Charlotte, my people in Atlanta, and in other places, California and stuff. So, but that's what to me makes it a great thing, because it can be available to anybody. You can access it if you're on one side of town, and you can access another side of town. So that's when being the great thing, and everybody has the opportunity. Whereas you have brick and mortar, people find it hard, as accessible transportation is, to go on one side of the town, even if it's on a Saturday and they got nothing to do. But we find a way to make it accessible to everyone.
That's good. You're also now doing some little branding changes up. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So one of the things, like I said, I believe in holistic health, and I really was practicing it. I kind of fell off, and I'm trying to get myself back together. And one of the things that I'm huge into meditation and earth. I'm a big tree hugger. I love nature, and I'm trying to get back into eating more holistically. I'm getting back there, But so I'm going back into we're looking at things to help with different modalities in people's healthcare. Oh. So I've got with a scientist, he's a friend of mine. I've been partnering with him since we partnered up in around March, and we've been working very intimately. He was in Arkansas, now he's in Oregon, and we've been working together, and we've kind of created our own CBD infused Keurig cup. And there are obviously other CBD infused coffees. However, not one particularly that is precise and gives you really what you need in terms of per cup. Where the bags are measured, and people have the option of, putting coffee and how much they use, because everybody uses coffee different ways. Some people put a lot of heavy coffee. And so this one is deliberate and has the right amount of CBD coffee, and it's all natural.
Okay.
All natural, all not produced. So there's none of that inhibitors that's going to create all these malfunctions in you. So they're just really, any little kid can take it, and it's really good. And we've been actually doing a lot of surveys, so it's actually good for anxieties, any type of pain, anything that will kind of help you, and it just kind of mellow you out.
Well, if you're drinking it every day, you might as well be drinking something that's good for you.
You might as well drink something. Hey, that's my whole thing is, and as doing the coffee trailer, which has been great experience just to learn more intently about the business. But I've noticed that people, man, we are a reflection of what we do every day, and sometimes what we do every day isn't always good for us. So they'll pour, like, I don't drink milk. I don't drink whole milk. I try to alkalize my body as much as possible. I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm totally, but that's one of the things I'm trying to really. And I can't tell anybody what to do, but if I can offer.
Telling me not to put no milk in my coffee.
Yeah, I can tell you. You know what I'm saying? But if you look at what they do with that milk comes with that stuff, you be like, I ain't drinking this no more.
Hush it, Terry.
Yeah, I ain't gonna hush it. I'm gonna hush it with you. But I wanted to really get into this market, and we're also going to be expanding into other therapeutic.
But you're not a coffee drinker.
I'm not a traditional coffee drinker, but I do like coffee. I just didn't drink all the sweets. I'm on both sides of my family. We have a long line history of diabetes, high blood pressure, and stuff like that. So
you've given up a lot of that sweets.
Yeah, I don't. Sweets is my. I got a beautiful heart. I'm a sweet guy. And sweets, I love some chocolate cake. I love cheesecake, really, and brownies. So I got to get that stuff up. And so if I can live my life and not perfect, but try to be a reflection of what I do, I want to try to influence people in a positive way. So, and this is just one of the approaches that we do.
Speaking of health and coffee drinkers, because a lot of coffee drinkers, they add the sugars and the milks and stuff to it. Are you guys coming up with any other types of things, products that where they can add substitute?
We are. So like we're working right now. My buddy, he's a scientist. Like he's chemist, not scientist. Sorry, chemist. He's working on. We're developing some alternative sweeteners.
Okay.
So I don't want to say sugars because sugar leads to people thinking that they can go and get. People will get these sweetened loaves. Or they'll get these other things.
Yeah.
Even certain honeys and certain things are not as pure and really can things like if you're going to do more things, you're going to do more of the natural type of like agave or date nut sweetener.
Right.
Those are more natural. So we're looking at creating those other products to accommodate them, and also the sweet and also the flavor. People like the flavors,
Right.
and we're going to be doing those. So and we're going to be for kids. We're going to be having cocoa.
Okay.
So cocoa and tea is going to be the next one, but right now we just got our first prototypes finished. Like as a fact, like a week ago, and we're actually getting people to try them out, and the praise has been really good.
So you get to be the taste testers for the teas.
Yeah, I love tea. Yeah. But I like coffee now too. I'm
you
just
like coffee now?
I'm just not a fiend.
Oh.
Just
You're calling us a fiend?
well, hey,
If the shoe fits.
hey, I grew up in the crack 80s. You know what I'm saying? I saw them. No, I'm just playing. But I'm just saying.
So, Terry, where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Phoenix, Arizona.
Are you?
Yeah, originally I grew up here. I went to school at T.G. Bar on 20th Street in Southern, and went to Southmont High School.
You just come across as an East Coast.
Yeah, and then that's where I stayed for a while, and I went to Arizona State, went to Northern Arizona, worked on my doctorate at Argosy University, moved up north. Not up north, but in Northern Virginia, Manassas area. Went did some contract work for the government, and then lived in Richmond, Virginia for 2 years, and then spent the last 5 years in Charlotte.
You've been around, but you're still an Arizona guy.
Yeah, I'm true to my roots. I'm from the soil.
So where can our audience find you?
You can find me here. You can go to my Instagram, KheperaCoffee.com. You can follow me on Facebook. I'm, what is it, Terry Clark? I don't even know my handles that well. But Terry Clark, if you want to get in touch with me for any coffee, you can hit my cell right now. Like I said, we're doing a whole rebranding. Our website right now is being revitalized, and we rebrand everything like it was before. You can ship it. So people, it's been said it's down because I've been really changing the whole thing. But my number 602-672-2962. Once again, that is 602-672-2962.
So you got that.
You got it, okay?
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us here today. It was such a pleasure.
I appreciate you giving me a call and let me experience this. I've never been, one thing.
Next time you remember to bring me some coffee.
I will, but let me say this real quick. So, one thing that remind me of when I was a kid, I always wanted to go on Wallace and Labmo. And this is what I wanted. And so I'm like, this is like Wallace and Labmo, but I'm an adult. So, thank you.
Yeah, well, it's such a pleasure.
Y'all Phoenicians know about Wallace and Labmo.
Yes, we do. And thank you for joining us, and we'll catch you next time on Desertwood Days.
Today's episode of Desertwood Days with Kathy Blaze was sponsored by Movie Group. Visit them at dreamnetworkchannel.com.